Now you're a level even higher. Shine on, be a man, right into the sun. Stay strong, you can make it if you know inside you have the answer. Shine on, time to play. Game on, nothing left in your brain. Very close to victory, the finish line for you and me. Never give up the path to your destiny.
Hey guys, Samurai here, back in with another episode of the Pokemon Sword and Shield series, Champions Road. In the last episode, Ash got separated from Chase and Elane in a random earthquake that was caused by a time-space drift. This is where he also gets to meet Peonia again, as she was also lost from her friends. While they're catching up, they end on the opposite side of the field. Two trainers named Ray and Adaman also wind up in this time. They have no idea where they are, and while that is happening, Ash and Peonia are fighting Mars. This is when Ray and Co jump in order to protect their so-called friend that they think looks like their friend back home. However, by the end of it, they all team up after beating a raid and all decide to head north, as that's where Ray decides Sir Chester is. Ash, thinking that's a good idea, they all decide to head there. Now this part of the story takes place after Dialga and Palkia disperse their energy, so the Pokemon are more rabid than ever, and now here's where we catch up with Elane, who ended up banging her foot after the space-time quake. However, Eevee gets up valiantly and ready to defend Elane, and Elane, still hurting but able to command Eevee, is able to fend off Pokemon for a bit. This is when we see a trainer jump in with two Pokeballs, being Quilava and Beartick. So after Lucas makes his scene on the battlefield, he immediately assesses the situation and helps Elane back on her feet by mending her leg, saying that he always keeps a first aid kit with him. This is when Elane starts to blush and actually develops a bit of a crush on Lucas, as she's always kinda had one. After she gets up, her and Lucas team up after healing Eevee, with Elane sitting on her Charmander, Lucas remaining with his Beartick as he thinks it's the best option so far. It's an absolute beast on the battlefield, along with Lucas's expert calculation of the Pokemon. This is when Elane gets to see what Ash was talking about firsthand, with Lucas being like a book, as he knows almost every strategy that she would go for. It's almost like he's an encyclopedia, but we have no time to focus on that now, as this is when they see a woman walking up towards them very nervously. This woman is Jupiter, one of the admins of Team Galactic. However, neither Lucas nor Elane knows who Team Galactic is. She's very nervous as two trainers who looked very mysterious immediately popped out of the time-space warp, and she's asking for help. She believes these two trainers are thieves wanting to steal her Pokemon. Lucas and Elane, not having any of that, go to immediately help her and help confront the strangers. While they're walking towards where the strangers are, the strangers pop out on a different side of the time-space warp, being Irida and Akari. Both Irida and Akari are incredibly confused about where they are, but they have no idea. With Akari having no idea where they are, she's never been to Galar, as that's where Ray is from. They're both incredibly clueless, but this is when they see our main trio coming towards them. This main trio being Jupiter, Lucas, and Elane. This is when Lucas and Irida end up having a battle. Irida sends out her ever faithful Glaceon, and Lucas keeps on with Beartick. Beartick is like a massive wall to Glaceon. Even Irida is actually pretty nervous and has to ask Akari to step in soon enough. But this is when Elane notices that Jupiter's making a bunch of smiles that look typically devious. When noticing the pair's unnatural clothing, it doesn't look like they would be thieves. However, this is when Jupiter can catch on and assures Elane that they don't look like what they seem, and this is when Lucas overhears this and decides to go twice as hard in the battle. This battle ends up being twice as intense, and Irida's really put on the back foot. This trainer is almost like he's using strong and agile style at the same time. This truly shows how adept they are out of their time, with Lucas saying that the strategies that Irida is using are so old that everybody could counter them, heck, even a novice could. Irida, clearly mad at this, decides to go twice as hard, using one of the agile style moves, and this actually gives her some bit of an advantage as her Pokemon moves a bit faster, but not enough to stop Beartick. This is when Lucas and Elane both notice Jupiter laughing under her breath and immediately realize they've been on the wrong side this entire time. Every trainer turns around to face Jupiter, along with Lucas healing up Glaceon and apologizing, saying that they should take out Jupiter and they can answer any questions that those two might have after this. So they end up having a battle with Jupiter, and this time, since Lucas is so pissed off by Jupiter playing him for a fool, he decides to take her on all by himself with Beartic. Beartic with a single Hyper Beam takes out Skuntank as Lucas wasn't holding back, as Lucas hates being manipulated and taken advantage of. This is when the four get to talk, and they end up having a conversation that goes like this. When Elane asks Dawn why she's wearing that outfit, Akari is very confused, saying that Dawn was the name of her sister who doesn't really live with her. Everybody's incredibly confused, but this is when Lucas, remembering his great-great-grandfather having similar clothes to Akari, but in a different form, asking if they know anybody named Ray. They immediately spring up and get excited, knowing if they know Ray and if they know where they are. Lucas, realizing what happened as he saw Dialga and Polka fight through the sky earlier, realizing that they must be stuck in a time-space warp, and time and space is becoming fluid. They're connected with old Sinnoh. This is when Irida gets really nervous for some reason. When Akari inquires on why she would be nervous, she remembers that the noble Pokemon Arcanine, she felt its presence somewhere throughout the area, knowing that the Gigantamax particles that both Dialga and Palkia had after they fought are sprouted throughout the area. They realize a bunch of bad stuff could happen, especially if a noble Pokemon. Lucas remembers studying about the noble Pokemon and the effects that they could have on wild Pokemon, not to mention their crazy nature if not contained properly. So they all begin to look for it. They do eventually find they eventually find Arcanine. However, Arcanine is actually calm when they first meet it. This is until one of the shards from the Dynamax energy that both Dialga and Palkia disperse falls into it and causes it to go mad and Dynamax. This is when Lucas and Elane immediately think of a Dynamax raid to help solve the problem, with Akari being a quick study, immediately knowing what this is, being a 4v1. While Irida isn't too happy about it, as this is not what they do ceremonially, this is when Lucas says times will change, and right now I think she can make an exception. Irida, clearly bothered but willing to go along with it, sends out Glaceon. This is when Lucas sends out a new Pokemon that nobody knew he had, being Haxorus. This is when Akari sends out Sneasler, and Elane, going for the type advantage, sends out Squirtle. All of them are doing pretty well, but especially since this is a noble Dynamax Pokemon, this Pokemon is incredibly destructive, and they have to be on their guard all the time. Haxorus is being very defensive, unnatural for Haxorus, but basically Lucas rationalizes this as Haxorus can take the most hits, so they should all just focus on attacking. With Akari basically being amazed by this, definitely thinking of Ray and how he would handle the situation. Lucas definitely reminds him a lot of Ray, however they can't talk for long, as this is when each trainer goes all out. Squirtle, activating its Torn ability, ends up evolving with the energy from Torn, turning into Wartortle. This actually helps turn the battle around, along with Glaceon using Helping Hand on Wartortle's Hydro Pump. It actually ends up saving the day, and Irida, having Arcanine's Pokeball on hand, easily returns it to its Pokeball. After returning Arcanine to its Pokeball, the group decides to head north, as this is when Lucas looks on his phone saying that north is the way of Sir Chester, and most likely, knowing Ash and knowing Chase, they probably went up north as well. So Elane decides to head along with them, and Ray, Akari, and Irida went with them, thinking they'll find their friends. They hope that Animan and or Ray is here, along with Kamado and Volo, as this could easily be a situation where they could all use their help finding a way home. And we're going to talk upon Chase next episode. Yeah, stay tuned for next episode. We're going to touch upon Chase, and we're going to see what Leon is doing throughout these episodes. So stay tuned for that next week. Sorry for the background noise. I apologize. I'm recording this last minute as the original audio got corrupted. Alright, Samurai out.